speech, Tarun.
Today, for my second speech, I'll be talking about computing cloud and taking you guys through some of the historical events that shaped current state of art that exists in the cloud. What cloud computing is, we'll be taking a look at that also. Essentially, I'll be focusing on two basic ideas that shaped the technology, today's available technology, and it starts with somewhere around 150 years back in the days of Edison. Next slide. In 1879, one of the idea was given a practical shape by a person who was branded as, his teacher said, he is too stupid to learn anything. And he ended up giving us this great invention, the first electric bulb. None other than Thomas Alva Edison. Next. So besides this great invention, he also gave us this great quote which has inspired innovations. This particular invention, we need to come up with some kind of convention to enter picture. So, one idea of one bulb and one word gives a better perspective when you look at this. This is a screenshot, satellites picture taken of the United States. You can relate one idea that existed 150 years ago in one person's mind. And today, we cannot imagine a life without that. So the takeaway is never ever underestimate an idea. Now the cloud computing is just like a bulb idea, but on steroids. This is a common phrase when we say something is having much more impact on us. So we'll be seeing how this cloud computing compares with the invention of electric bulb and how today we cannot imagine a life without light. In near future, in coming decades, we'll be reaching a point where life will be unthinkable without the cloud computing. Cloud computing essentially refers to all the computing infrastructure not in premises of the business. For instance, if the Anthem has this IT department, if they export the whole IT division itself to the cloud, means some third party manages it. And the business needs, the requirement, the economy of scale is going to force the businesses to go for that option because that is much more cheaper. There are less people involved in maintaining the infrastructure. I'll give you an example. The cloud basically is a way to use your IT infrastructure using the web. The browser is going to be your main window into whatever we do. And we'll see how this happens. Essentially, what the cloud is doing is, if you look at this, this is the future of how the server is going to look like. If you have recognized this looks like a container, shipping container. And today's servers, they do not come as an individual machines, which we use to see our desktops and things like this. This is the inside picture of this pod. It has 3,000 servers in it. And you have more than 5,000 such kind of pods in a typical data centers, in the modern data centers. And if you see, the way this whole thing works is, the manufacturers create the pod, complete with all the servers configured. They are put on the trucks, literally. And these trucks come and download their stuff. And all you need to do is to connect the power line. And 3,000 servers are out. In a typical business establishment. They are probably, for instance, I work at State of Ohio Computer Center. This is State of Ohio's traditional old data center. It has less than 1,000 servers and probably more than 400 employees. Somebody realized that there are more people doing less work. So recently they gave the contract to IBM to pull in that kind of thing. This is a picture, what happens when those those pods, HP pods, this is a picture of the Generation 4 mega data center created by Microsoft somewhere in Europe, probably in Ireland. If you see, this is an open structure because the pods are like sealed containers. Nothing can go inside. If 25% of the machines stop working, the whole pod is replaced. Essentially, when I say cloud computing, this is the place where your cloud lives. And cloud computing means whenever, it's not in a very high-tech term, you can replace the word cloud computing with utility computing. Just the way your utilities work today, like your gas or your electric meters, pay per use. Whatever amount of electricity you use, you pay for that. They are bringing that notion of utility into the computing infrastructure. You don't need to buy 10 servers which run all 24/7. You may be using them maybe 20% of the time, but you are stuck with them because you paid for them. This concept brings pay per use. If you are using your machine for 4 hours, you pay for 4 hours, and after 4 hours, you just turn the knob off and your meter stops. It's just like your utilities. You use your gas, switch it off, keep your food, switch it off, you're done. That concept is going to revolutionize the way we live our lives, and we'll see next slide how it works. So once the one single data center has been placed, the next job is to connect it to the other data centers. So these are the pictures taken from the Microsoft's data center plan, which is going to be connected. As you see, across the continents, they are all connected, leading up to one world where all data centers are connected seamlessly. This is the infrastructure part. But when it comes to the software engineering part, all this is taken care of by hiding it, abstracting it away by browser. All this is hidden behind the browser. How it is, I'll show you in the next slide. This is my online account, and I have taken a picture because there's no online. My internet is not available. If you see here, I'm not sure whether you can read it. This is the name of your continents, like Southeast Asia, North Europe, East Asia. These days, when we build software, the browser asks us one question. Which part of the world you would like to create your server? This is new. If today I'm working in this building and I'm asked to create a database, all I need to do is to log into the machine remotely into the server and create the database. It stays here. But the future is coming where the very first question is going to ask is, identify the geographical region where you would like to do. And in 15 minutes flat, today the technology allows you to create any piece of software. In the previous slide, you could see, for instance here, you can see the mobile services, the virtual machines, the cloud, the databases, everything has come to this level where this price, for instance, is 2 cents per hour. If you create that virtual machine based on Linux operating system, they're going to charge you 2 cents per hour. This is different than today's server. Today, if you want to provision a server, you need to spend thousands of dollars, and you're stuck with that investment for the life of that server. No more. I'm paying on per hour basis. So this is the concept of utilities. The gas comes in your house, you use it for 1 hour, you pay for 1 hour. For the rest of the 23 hours in a day, you're not paying for it. That concept has come to the computing infrastructure. And this is going to change the way we live our lives. How is going to do this? Probably you guys are already doing it. Are you watching Netflix You have Netflix at home. You ever place an order with Amazon? Amazon. You go to the Amazon and place an order and it ships the product. These are two shining examples. They are running on the cloud computing infrastructure. Without cloud computing, there won't be any Netflix. There won't be any Amazon. They are the leaders in this area. And slowly it is coming to the other parts. For instance, recently, the health industry made it mandatory that all the medical staff needs to have electronic health records. Right? So you go to the doctor's office, you see files of files. Within next decade, all will be just because everything will be digitized, exist in electronic form, and doctors cannot take care of that much data. It will end up somewhere in the cloud, which is, as of today, probably 99.95 SLA agreements are there. It's that much secure. It's just the feeling that the data is not within my premises. That's why people are hesitant. So this is one of the ideas. Just like in a bulb at some point of time when Edison just created the bulb, at that point of time, people were not that much enthusiastic about doing bulb. They didn't know what to do with it. There was no meter concept. Then there was another gentleman who developed the electric meter. And Edison's electric company did a contract with them, and today's General Electric was formed. So today's General Electric company is nothing but our great Edison's company. I want to take you a little bit back, around 150 years pre-Civil War days, when this gentleman with the name of Henry Burden, is a Scottish engineer, came to the United States. And this guy created this machine. And I was able to track this image from the Library of Congress records. This is part of the Industrial Revolution history in the US. What this guy did was created this 60-foot water wheel and transported that mechanical power of 500 horsepower into a machine that was producing horseshoes. Historically very important because this gentleman's company, the Burden Iron Works, was responsible for 99% of horseshoes that were delivered to the Union Army that participated into the 1861 to 65 Civil War. That's a big thing given that we are talking about 1860. Within 50 years, this thing disappeared. Obsolete. This was a great innovation, became obsolete. What happened? Next slide, please. At that point of time, Edison was experimenting with the notion of electricity as a utility. They had the electricity but didn't know how to transmit it, how to distribute it. So this concept that electricity power should be transmitted to the user, because the Burden's concept was whoever wants the power, he needs to have this kind of water wheel installed in their company. So all big businesses in 1860s, 70s, 80s had this kind of a water wheels. They were dependent on the private power generation facilities. And those great inventions disappeared once this idea of power transmission came. Today, we are experiencing the exact same thing. The great water wheel is nothing but our old data centers. And this power transmission is nothing but the computing infrastructure is being transmitted through wireless and through the wire. The day that happened, just like the wheel disappeared, our old data center is going to disappear. I work in a data center, and today, last week, the IBM contract was given to IBM to revamp, dismantle this data center. The state of Ohio is closing their 23 data center and consolidating into one. So I have first-hand experience of watching how the technology that was great in one day, within 5 years, has become obsolete. Progress is disrupted. Next slide, please. So what's the point of this whole thing? The point is, there was one idea that killed the Burden's water wheel. And the idea was democratization of electric power. power was not just for the rich people, but by sending the power through wires, it became available to the more. Similarly, we are experiencing a phase where we are democratizing the processing power. So the question was, what killed the largest industrial water meter? So the answer was the idea of electric power. And I'll quickly go through all these. There are just two questions. So what will kill the old traditional data centers? The processing power as a utility. When your computational power comes through the wires, something has to make room for it. So that's why I'm saying this water wheel 150 years ago represents today's old data centers. So history is repeating itself. There are patterns of evolutions. So this was a great invention at some point. This was a great invention at some point. Within 150 years, this thing has become this. It has to make room for some other thing because processing power is available as utility. So the question comes, is this technology really useful? This is the last slide. I just want to discuss the economic side of this. If you look at the job market today, this was the Forbes magazine did a survey, and if you look at this, the minimum salary begins at 100K, and it goes up to 144K per year. This was 5-year-old data. Within 2 years, you will be hitting 200K annual salary if you are working in one of these chosen areas. Next slide, please. So if you see, as per this magazine, manufacturing, IT, infrastructure, and the retails, they consume 80% of the service market in this area. So, if I ask myself the question, what I will be doing in next 10 years, I'll be looking at one of these options. Hopefully this information was useful. The question is, are you ready for the cloud computing? If yes, great. If not, why not? Thank you.